Welcome to Season 8, Episode 15 of the Ubuntu podcast. It's Tuesday, the 16th of June, and we're going to discuss what's been happening in the news and in the community. I'm Mark, and joining me this week, the A-Team are back together. It's Laura.
Hiya!
Alan.
Hiya!
And Martin.
Hola!
How have you all been then?
Tickety-boo.
Great.
Yeah, very well,
On
thank
holiday.
you. Yeah, holidays.
Well, I trust you'll, you won't be slacking off this week. You'll, notice to the grindstone and all that.
The fact that we're the A-Team doesn't make the people who stood in for the A-Team anything less than, the A-Team as well. The other A-Team, I think.
And they're super special because they stood in.
Yes.
Yeah, stepped into the breach when it was most necessary.
Breachiest.
Okay, that's not working. Should we get on with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's have some news. First up, Apple have announced that Swift will be open source by the end of the year. Compilation and standard libraries will be available for OS X, iOS, and for Linux. Okay, first up, what's Swift?
It's a language.
It's a programming language.
Yeah.
So it's...
Okay. To me, it's a message format.
Name collision.
Yeah.
Yes, it's also a bird.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, go on.
So, during the Apple keynote thing, which you could only watch on an Apple device at WWDC, they announced that Swift would be open sourced by the end of the year.
So this is the language you have to use to write iOS apps, is that correct?
Previously it was Objective-C was the language you pretty much had to use, but Swift is the new generation of language. They're introducing loads of new technologies last year and this year, and Swift was one of them. And a few people have pointed out, this is great. This is a milestone that they're actually open sourcing it. But then the flip side is they kind of have to do this if they want to get any adoption. You can't, nobody uses Objective-C outside iOS. So if they want to get adoption and get people porting stuff to Swift, they just got to do this, really.
So will anybody be using it?
Well, it depends. If you can build on something that isn't OS 10, so on Linux, if you can actually build something for Linux on Linux or for something else and not just for the Mac, if the whole point of this is just we'll put our compiler on your platform so you can build stuff for our platform, then nobody will do that, I don't think.
But if it's got the standard libraries as well, then that means that you can presumably do, moderately useful stuff with what they're providing.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, really.
It wasn't clear to me, whether this was just a developer platform. So, like you say, you can make your app on Linux so that you can then deliver it to the Play, whatever Apple call their App Store. Is it an App Store? Probably.
It's called the App Store.
Yeah, okay, that's a convenient name. But what it wasn't clear is if you would then be able to use this to maybe embed on your Ubuntu phone and use Swift to write apps for your Ubuntu phone. And I didn't see enough information to make that clear to me.
Yeah, I think the fanboy in me was a little bit excited because I still have an iOS device kicking around, so I actually put it to good use, and I had the WWDC keynote running on my phone, like watching this, and at the point at which the slide came up with the word Linux on it, I was kind of yay a little bit because that that's never happened before.
Yeah, the positive news is that it lists Linux and it doesn't say Windows, so score one for Linux.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Moving on.
Great news. Microsoft have finally made their Raspberry Pi 2 image available. If you have a perverse sense of curiosity and want to try this Johnny-come-lately entrant to the Raspberry Pi community, you'll need to sign up to Microsoft Connect using your Microsoft account, then complete all the surveys to gain access to the Windows 10 Insider Preview download, which you must install on a physical computer, not into a virtual machine. Then you're ready to...
How do they know?
Well, I don't know. I haven't done it, obviously, because I don't know what Microsoft Connect is, and I damn sure don't have a Microsoft account. But I have read all the information very, very carefully. And once you've done that,
you've installed that?
So once you've installed the Windows 10 preview on a real computer, you're then ready to download wait for it, it's a catchy name, Windows 10 IoT Core Insider Preview image for the Raspberry Pi 2. And then you can negotiate the lengthy setup procedure, which I don't think will be a problem for most of the Raspberry Pi community, who by and large are technically very proficient. But
so can you just remind me how you get Ubuntu Mate?
Well, this is it. So my thoughts about this were, get off our lawn, Microsoft. I'm sure the Raspberry Pi Foundation are delighted that they've got Microsoft on board with the Raspberry Pi, because it's a big brand and it helps push their platform and achieve more recognition for the Raspberry Pi. But we're an Ubuntu podcast, and let's Ubuntu all the things. So forget your Microsoft Windows 10 IoT Core Insider preview image for the Raspberry Pi 2 when you could have Ubuntu Snappy Core, which is an Internet of Things platform, and that's an emerging technology designed for precisely these sorts of things. And just this month there's been an update to that image that has addressed a number of issues and made some additional snap packages available. But if you're not quite ready for the cutting edge world of an IoT platform, and you want something a bit more like a traditional Ubuntu server platform, and I'm surprised this hasn't had more recognition in the Ubuntu community. Ryan Finney has made a community version of Ubuntu 14.04 server for the Raspberry Pi 2. So if you want a traditional Ubuntu server platform, you can go and get that image. All the links to these things will be in the show notes.
Is it no GUI? It's just
it's straight up Ubuntu 14.04 server.
I did not know that existed.
Yeah, it's great as well. And if it wasn't for the fine work of Ryan Finney and the helping hand that he gave myself and Rohith Madhavan, there would be no Ubuntu Mate 15.04 for the Raspberry Pi 2. So you can also get the full desktop experience, which is ideal for coding brain-powered computer games and then running them on the Raspberry Pi 2. So there you have it, Ubuntu Snappy Core, Ubuntu 14.04 server, and Ubuntu Mate 15.04, all available for the Raspberry Pi 2, and well ahead of when Microsoft finally decided to pull their finger out. And if Ubuntu's not your thing, then there's also the excellent Raspbian, Pidora, which is the Fedora spin, OpenELEC for your media centers, and for Jedi Masters there's Arch Linux ARM. So, don't bother with that Microsoft nonsense. Stick with Linux, and let's not forget, you can also get FreeBSD for the Raspberry Pi as well.
Well, that told us, didn't it?
Yeah, I've got a bee in my bonnet about that, so yeah, not at all biased.
I did actually,
couldn't tell.
Yeah,
I did actually get the email from Microsoft saying the image is now available, and I clicked the link, and the first thing it said was, you need to be already running Windows 10. I was like, oh. Close tab.
Yeah, stop reading.
Why would I do that? So, yeah, anyway, moving on. There is a new BQ device available. If you're in EU, Norway or Switzerland, you can now pre-order the BQ Aquaris E5 Ubuntu edition from BQ's website. The biggest difference from the previous model is the HD display and higher resolution camera front and rear. Orders will be processed from the 22nd of June.
Cool.
Excellent.
I've placed my order.
You have?
I have. I really, really have. I can't wait.
Ooh, exciting.
Excellent. When do you expect it to arrive? Do you know?
Shortly after the 22nd of June.
Okay.
Very shortly after the 22nd of June, I hope.
To arrive.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
And I understand Laura's getting a device as well, and I think Laura and I have both committed to try and run Ubuntu Touch on a full-time basis for at least a month to really get to grips with it and try and replace, well, in my case, my failing Android platform.
So, what are you going to be doing with your old phone then, Laura? Sorry.
The what?
No, never mind.
Sorry, you broke up at that point.
Hint wasn't subtle enough, I don't think, Mark. I think Mark was asking you for your old BQ phone, Laura.
Word on the street is that Microsoft is working with partners to bring cheaper devices to the market, including a laptop that will be available for around $169 or 145 euros, or maybe an amount of money in pounds as well, so that we understand what that means, and would be specifically designed to slow down the growth of Google Chromebooks and boost the adoption of Windows 10.
Is this like what they did with netbooks back in the day when?
Well, that's I get the feeling
really well with netbooks, and then they came along and went, "Haha, no, all netbooks will be like this, and they'll have a rubbish version of Windows on them."
I just get the feeling that they're going to be really cheap laptops, which are therefore really rubbish.
In just the same way. Sorry.
So I started reading this article with the aim of writing a one-line summary of it for the show notes, and I just got bored partway through. But also, it just seemed like it was speculating. It didn't even seem to be reporting news. It just sort of said, this might be happening, and this might be what it is, but we don't really know. So
maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Laura's take on it. Moving on.
So an Indian guy, the Jess GN, discovered that Airtel, a mobile operator, was inserting JavaScript into users' browser sessions, which is quite bad. Apparently it was a toolbar, but, he posted evidence of it to GitHub and tweeted about it, and then got a copyright infringement accusation slapped at him by Flash Network, which is another company who claims to be responsible for the code injection software that Airtel was using.
So he's an Airtel customer, and he noticed
so.
this additional JavaScript appearing in pages he visited. Right.
That he could see, so it wasn't even like he was hacking into anything to see it.
Right, so it's like the equivalent of going, to the view menu and doing view source and looking at the source code of, which is not a elite hacker type activity. But
certainly not copyright infringement of any description.
Well, if he is copying, if he's then copying it and distributing it, then I suppose technically, but it's very much the Scientology defense, as in they don't want people to see it, so they use copyright as a sort of catch-all. Oh, we'll scare you away with this.
But what was it actually doing? Do we know?
Putting a toolbar in.
Right.
What
was it like? User tracking kind of stuff, or
this is a
advert delivery or something? Yeah,
it's a growing trend. Yeah, it's a growing trend with operators and ISPs in some parts of the world to embed, ads into your browser, so it doesn't matter where you're going, you get their preferred ad platform injecting adverts into your browsing session.
How unpleasant.
It's the worst kind of behaviour, and it's a disgusting response, quite frankly.
Indeed.
Yes.
Let's all use VPNs.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in other disgusting behaviour, Martin.
Yeah, from the shutting the gate after the horse has bolted department, SourceForge explain their past, present and future, and how they're working to maintain the integrity of their open source backbone. You may remember from a previous episode.
They have one?
Yeah. Well, I have no backbone, that's clear. You may remember from a previous episode that SourceForge, the once trustworthy source code hosting site, started placing misleading ads like fake download buttons on their website, and also bundled third-party adware directly with their Windows installer. And then more recently, SourceForge hijacked some abandoned project accounts, partly to shamelessly bundle the adware with their installers. So in the article, SourceForge say, we established a program to help with the removal of ads that mimic our user interface elements or otherwise perceived to be malicious. We continue to ask for your patience and assistance, as this is a continuous process. A little bit later in the article, they describe themselves as being responsive to the community, and that this has been a year since those ads were placed that look like download buttons when they're not. And then they go on to say about the hijacking of accounts and taking over the installers. Based on the community feedback, we promptly discontinued this test based on community reaction. We understand this caused tremendous concern among the community members, and we acknowledged that it was an oversight on our part. At some point there was a meeting about this.
Yes.
And it didn't occur to anyone in the room that this was a really bad idea.
Yeah, but the problem
I was
is
on
everyone else...
SourceForge earlier today because I was downloading a piece of open source software, and it reminded me of visiting a wares site.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem is that they're in a market segment, which is the software distribution to Windows users, where everybody does this. So, download.com, CNET, 2 Cows, they all have really sketchy looking download pages. None of them are, oh, you want the download? Here it is. It's just a horrible experience, and is exactly the reason why so many Windows users have dodgy rubbish on their machine. We used to say, oh, that's a virus, you got it from, someone sending you an email, you opening the attachment. Or we used to say, you went on a Warez site, or you downloaded from LimeWire or something like that, and try and tell them that they're not educated enough, or they're not doing the right thing. They're not being clean about how they're using their computer. But actually, it turns out that they, if you go to a reputable site and go to get something that anyone else would download in a trice and just click the executable, I just hate this. SourceForge has just become.
You know what Windows needs
awful.
is a package manager.
Oh. Yeah, well, they do have one, a prototype one, or an early.
Yeah,
early
we've interviewed a guy who made it actually, and that's great. But until then,
before we
there's all these
move
horrible people out
off
there.
the SourceForge topic, I use SourceForge to host some downloads for the Ubuntu Mate project, and I've been looking for a new place to place those downloads. And I found a project page. It's called Goodbye SourceForge. You'll find the link in the show notes. And it gives you a brief history of everything that SourceForge have done that's upset people, and then a nice matrix arrangement of all of the source code hosting and download hosting platform providers and what features and facilities they offer, so that you can go and find an alternative to the SourceForge. I'm not going to use any.
So SourceForge is non-free software, isn't it?
No, it's not actually. No, so it's actually under the Apache project, and it's open source licensed.
So people are moving from open source, but hosting their stuff on an open source platform like SourceForge, to closed source platforms like GitHub.
But Launchpad is also in the Goodbye SourceForge, list of matrices, and there are some other open source platforms, including some host-it-yourself solutions as well.
That's good. Super. Meanwhile, in terrible news, LastPass, the popular password manager, has suffered a security breach last Friday. They informed their users on the 15th of March that their network had been compromised and data stolen.
June.
Oh,
it says March.
June. Sorry.
June, that their network had been compromised and data stolen during, including account email addresses, password reminders, and master password authentication hashes. While the encrypted password themselves were not affected, and its unlikely passwords can be determined from their hashes, LastPass have advised their users to change their master passwords.
Done it.
Yep.
Also done it.
Same here.
I've migrated.
Yeah, I heard you.
You flounced off in a huff, didn't you?
Well, no, I was already my subscription was coming to an end, and as we had that command line love the other week about pass, the standard Unix password manager, I thought I'd give that a go and see if that can replace LastPass for me, and if not, then I'll have to renew my subscription.
How did the migration
but it's doing
go?
pretty well. Sorry?
How did the migration go?
Very well, except for if you have more than one entry in your LastPass CSV file that you get out, which has the same name in the same category, then it only imports one of them, which makes sense because of the way the pass works. So, and that's just where I've accidentally generated two passwords for the same site and left them both in my database. It's a bit worrying though, because as you see everything scroll past, it keeps saying error, and then it turns out actually everything I need is there. But no, it's actually the script to do the migration is really easy. The only tricky bit is setting up GPG in the first place.
And you've written a blog post about that, haven't you?
I have written a blog post.
We
can
should put that in the show notes. Yes, that would be super.
Cool.
So when it starts by setting up GPG, that's when I just go, no, I'm going to LastPass.
Well, that's the thing. Once it's set up, it all works very nicely. It's just that you wouldn't want to give it to someone who doesn't already know what GPG is and say, there you go, set it up. Because they'll just go, what? There are not enough bits of entropy. Huh?
I sort of feel like it's after an airplane accident, it's going to be a lot safer. So I'm sort of banking on that now.
Right. It's a lot safer now. Your hash of your master password is out there. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I've got a different master password.
That's okay. I did see an interesting post that suggested that they keep a copy of your previous backed up database of passwords encrypted with your old master password, so that if you ever need to get it back. Yeah,
there is. Well, there's a feature which allows you to roll back if you change your master password, then forget it. You can roll back to your old master password.
I changed my password and added a two-factor auth.
Yeah, I've been using two-factor auth.
Right. Super.
Cool.
I think that's the end of the news, isn't it?
I suppose so.
And we've got some community news. First up is the news of the new Dell XPS 13 Developer Edition. Timo Juriniki in Finland.
Jurinki.
Sorry. My brain's not working now. He's posted a brief review of it. In short, it's a good machine, but the factory image has some issues which require manual tinkering to fix.
Yes.
Trust me, there's nothing like what the first one had.
Yeah, basically, the updates break apparently unless you do apt-get f install, and there's a problem with the touchpad driver.
That didn't sound right to me either.
Apt-get effing install.
That's basically what the command is.
I think the nice thing about this blog post is Timo actually works for Canonical, and he bought one of these because I know his previous laptop broke, and he was looking for a new one, and he ordered one of these. And so I think it was good that he wrote it all up and wrote up, warts and all the issues that he had with it. And I know that those issues are being dealt with and being passed back to Dell. So
it's good. It's a good write up, and it is good and bad in it.
Yeah, it's just a shame that there are bad in there. It should work, out of the box. There shouldn't be these glitchy issues with it. This is like what, the third or fourth generation of those Sputnik laptops. It should be done by now, but it's a real shame. But, they're fixable. What else?
We have, in an attempt to avoid future conflicts of interest in the Community Council, Mark Shuttleworth has approached the Ubuntu Technical Board with the proposal that they provide input on code of conduct breaches when the complainant is a member of the CC.
This follows on from what we talked about last time. The Kubuntu and Ubuntu Community Council's conflict about Jonathan Riddell.
So the problem is if the Ubuntu Community Council are the ones who get to decide if the code of conduct has been broken, and they feel like someone has broken the code of conduct when communicating with them, then it's basically a foregone conclusion that they're going to say, yes, the code of conduct's been broken, which is kind of unfair because anyone else would have to sort of make the case to the Community Council that it had happened.
Well, it's more arbitration in any kind of conflict where one of the parties is the Community Council, because usually the Community Council is the escalation point. So, if there's a problem in the forum, it gets escalated all the way up to the Community Council, and the two people on the forum who are having the argument, it gets arbitrated by the Community Council. But if the Community Council are the ones who are having, the conflict, then, he sent a mail out to the tech board to ask them, and there was universal support, really, wasn't it? I don't think that will happen very often.
Let's hope not.
Once in 10 years that it's happened so far. So, but it's good. It's good to improve our processes when these things happen. Yes.
And Unity 8 can now be installed as a separate login session running inside a Lexi container.
This is quite
Which is fancy, except it doesn't work at all.
Yeah, it does.
Really?
Yes.
Didn't work for me, and it didn't work for the other person I spoke to about it. I log in, and then it flashes up a screen saying something about configuring your phone, and then I can't click anything, and it keeps flashing, and then Mir crashes eventually, I think.
What video card have you got?
Intel.
Ah, interesting. When did you do this?
Why would you do this?
Sorry, why?
Whose question should I answer?
Answer Alan's.
What was your question, Alan? I didn't hear it.
My question was, what did Laura say?
Okay, my question was, why would you do this?
To try out Unity 8.
On your laptop?
On your laptop.
Without having
So Alan asked, what's your graphics?
Yeah, exactly, because it's all in a container, so you don't have to worry about it, like, splatting packages in weird places.
And it's cool.
Yeah, it's quite neat. I when I first tried it, it didn't work for me either.
Maybe I need to update it.
And I pinged the guys in the Ubuntu Mir channel, and they talked me through getting some log files, and then turns out that they had fixed it in the time between me trying it and them debugging it. They'd already fixed it, so I just updated.
That's responsive,ness.
And it works.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's quite nice because the whole point of this is so that you can test out apps and convergence on the desktop, so you can see how the apps work and how Unity 8 looks on the desktop. And it is quite nice
Cool.
being able to run it in a way that it doesn't trash your current setup.
Yes.
It's not like having Ubuntu and Kubuntu installed in the same install where you get like menu items for each other and stuff like that. It's completely clean and separate, which is a really, really nice way to do it.
Absolutely.
It works on Intel and the Nouveau video driver. I had to get rid of the NVIDIA binary driver to do it, but it works.
Cool.
Fogalong has posted on Reddit that they have switched to using Ubuntu Touch as their sole phone, though with an Android tablet as backup. And a generally positive discussion was had, and we'll have a link to that in the show notes. And as I touched on earlier...
A generally positive discussion on Reddit?
Yeah, I know.
Well, exactly. That's why I put that.
Yeah.
There were questions.
And
they answered them.
Yeah, and there was no fighting.
No flames as far as I could see.
Yeah.
It was all very civilised.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good. So, yeah, I've, as I said earlier, I'm going to be doing something similar soon.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. A developer competition to win Neklesh Ramanthan's Meizu MX4, which he's received as an Ubuntu Insider from Canonical, has been started, and the deadline is the 1st of July. So Neklesh is one of the insiders who gets a phone, a bit like Laura, from
Did
Canonical.
we interview him at some point?
We have interviewed him, yeah. We talked to him about the core apps because he works on the Clock app, which ships on the phone by default. So there are thousands of phones out there with his code on as a clock that people use to manage their alarms and stuff. So no pressure, Neklesh. He's been given or being given an MX4, the new Meizu phone, and he said, I would like to offer it to someone else that could use it because he's not going to have a lot of time over the next couple of months to use it. So
Mark, don't you think that's a really lovely thing that he's doing?
Generous,
not his old phone, not the old one, but the new one he's receiving. Yeah. He's going to be giving away
my new one. You could borrow my old one.
Is that the best you can do? A borrow?
But what Neklesh is doing is he's running it as a kind of competition. So rather than just give it to any random person, he's set some criteria, and we'll put a link in the show notes. And if you meet the criteria and can do something cool with it, then maybe he'll send it to you instead.
Cool.
Mm.
And
Martin,
finally,
there's something about flavors.
Yeah, flavor developers are needed for milestone preparation. So this was posted on the release mailing list.
What's flavor?
Well, like Ubuntu Mate, a officially endorsed but not stock Ubuntu distribution. Mm-hmm. So Ubuntu Mate is Ubuntu, Lubuntu, Mythbuntu, Ubuntu Studio, Ubuntu GNOME.
I love it when we list them all off.
Like that. I know.
There needs to be a way of, mind you just say flavor, don't you?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it reads, Dear Flavor people, if you want the milestones to happen, and by milestones they're referring to Alpha 1, Alpha 2 and Beta 1, then please volunteer and put your name down in the appropriate cell on the table, which we'll include in the show notes. Otherwise, they can't take place. If you've not done this before, then help will be available. So this is a call out for participation for people involved in the Ubuntu flavors to take more of a role in the management of the QA and release process for the Alpha 1, Alpha 2 and Beta 1 releases. And if we don't get enough flavors involved and taking up the reins on some of this stuff, then unlike previous releases of Ubuntu, those milestone releases won't be happening. We'll just have final beta and then final release.
But they're optional anyway, aren't they? These interim releases of alphas and betas, they're completely optional.
They are, but in the past, I mean, he says authoritatively because I've only done this once. My understanding is in the past, you just had to say, yes, I would like to do Alpha 1, and magic happens, and there are people that are there to drive and manage the QA process. And what the Ubuntu community are looking for is more people outside of the canonical staff to actually drive that QA process for the flavors.
So that's when you say the QA process, that we're talking about building an ISO image. The image gets built on the canonical server somewhere, and that's coordination of people downloading the ISO and running various tests like installation, upgrades, and like that.
As I understand it, the foundations and release team will still be responsible for running the image build infrastructure, but they're looking for more people to actually do the QA testing and ISO tracking.
Right.
And ensure that everybody participates. And this is an all or nothing request. So if me as Ubuntu Mate just says, I want to do Alpha 1, unless I get all of the other flavors to get involved, there won't be an Alpha 1.
Really? It's not a case of just like individual...
No. All of the flavors have to move together. So at the moment, I've spoken to the Ubuntu team, and we have agreed to do, I think, Beta 2 or Beta 1, one of those. I have to check my notes. But at the moment, the alphas...
together?
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, it's a call out for help. If anyone wants to get involved in the QA and release process, then your help is really requested.
Is that the end of the news? I think it is, isn't it?
It is.
And community news.
That's all for episode 15. We'll be back next week when we'll be reviewing some Ubuntu devices from Entroware, and we'll bring you some command line love.
Hardware reviews. We haven't done that for ages.
Yeah, I know.
We've forgotten how to do it.
Well, I don't think I ever did one before, so I've never been able to forget.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Cool. And hopefully we'll have some phones to review in upcoming episodes, right, guys?
Let's hope so.
Yep.
Maybe.
Right, shall we pack it in then?
That's one way to do it.